Hi, this is Henry Sanders back with another episode of Real Talk. We want to thank our sponsors at Part Bank. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for Facebook Journalism Project for supporting us. And if you want more of this content, make sure you go to our YouTube page and see all the wonderful interviews we've done over these, it seems like it's just months now, right? For the past couple months. We have a someone who is, I feel sorry for already because I've ran for office. I know the headaches it takes and the energy and how much sacrifice and all that for running for office. But we have a new friend to the 365 audience. Nada, how are you? I'm
good. How are you doing?
Good. I am good. I'm good. These COVID-19 days, I'm still figuring out, is it Friday today? Is it Wednesday? Is it Tuesday? So I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to our viewers. Who are you? Where are you from? Etc.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here. A long-time subscriber to Madison 365. My name is Elmikashfi. I immigrated to Madison when I was 6 from Sudan, Africa, and grew up in and around the city. I went to Thoreau Elementary, Cherry Heights Middle School, West High School, and then UW-Madison. So I've been here for a little bit over 18 years. And when we were younger, my family moved around a lot, and they came here trying to forge their own American tradition. An American dream, and we moved around a lot. And I assumed that picking up every couple of years, every couple of months was kind of normal for Americans. And it wasn't until I was older and I started working in political spaces was I really able to articulate the experience that my family went through as a low-income Black immigrant family, and that was incredible displacement and gentrification, perpetuated by an affordable housing crisis in Madison that still is happening to this day. And so really looking into policy and working for the governor, for Senator Schilling, for a national org called Next Gen America, really threw me into looking at what was working for Madison and what wasn't. And so that informed why I declared my candidacy for office in January. Yeah.
You see me shaking my head. Office is such a tough. It's a tough. Yeah. We need good people who want to serve, though. So I commend you for jumping in.
Thank you.
I actually think it would be an asset for you by moving around so much. That means you've met a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. That you have you have a different lens of how you see people, right? Because you've so many different people. So you are running for the 57th seat. Is that it?
The 26th seat. The 26th Senate seat.
Okay, yeah. 26th seat, and you are. Decided to run for Senate. Why not county board? Why not assembly? Why not city council? Why Senate right away?
Well, I've gotten that question a lot, and I have a very particular answer for it. When you work in the Senate, you realize that there are incredible potential for changes within every single seat in governance. For me, school board, city council, supervisor seats are just as equal in service and in opportunity and in change of the Senate seat. I saw gaps in leadership within the legislature, gaps in leadership within the Senate from my experience there, that I knew that a voice, working class voice like mine that needs to amplify the people of Madison was really necessary in terms of getting our city to where we want it to be. And so for me, when people look at, my diverse experience in politics, in organizing, I haven't followed the traditional method of who gets to run for office or who gets to run for Senate. And so for me, I learned early on that you do not need permission to lead and heal your communities, especially in places where leadership has failed before, Henry. And for me, the biggest push into this specific seat was really talking to the people in my community, traveling around to my mosques and my African and Black community centers and asking them, when was the last time you've seen a representative or a senator come here and ask you what you need, right? How to heal the problems that affect your communities. In my 19 years here, I do not remember. And to be fair, maybe I was in school when they did, but when I asked our leadership, they also could not remember. And they also could not point to a time until actually March, when the lieutenant governor was I think the first person, Mandela Barnes, to come to our mosque on Orchard Street. And so for me, what really informed my run is if you truly want to serve and really be an effective senator for any jurisdiction, you need to have experience, and a varied experience. It doesn't have to be, a JD or a small business owner. You can truly be, there are farmers in the Wisconsin State Legislature that legislate with just as much tenacity, passion, and effectiveness as any of the very tenured or degree holding senators and representatives. But if you have that service, if you have that intention to listen to all the voices in your community, then you truly, truly can make change and be an effective leader. And that is a secret you don't always, find out when you're looking at the Capitol from the outside in. But when you're in there and you realize how much there is to lose and how little creativity and intention there is, you realize that there is gatekeeping methods and kind of, saying earn your place and wait your turn. And so I completely reject, the premise of that.
Well, I love, that's a quote, right? I love that. You don't need permission to lead. I love that. That I hope every young person hears that. That is so true. You do not need permission to lead. So you said the mosque. So I'm assuming that you're from the Islam faith. Is that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that is interesting from a Midwest, Wisconsin, Madison culture perspective. And how do you think? How do you think that plays out with your Islam faith running for a seat? Has that come into play? Have people brought that up to you? Like, if you can't, clearly you're not doing doors, but like how do you, when you interact with people? Is there pushback, or how do people address it with you?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and one that I certainly very feel strongly about. The day I announced my candidacy, a website went up calling for my execution, and people put ransom on my head. So my religion has very much played a very huge role, kind of in the fear and the hate that I've seen within this country. All of the hate and the death threats actually are coming from Florida, believe it or not, and around the country, and not so much in Madison, which is a very good thing, and it's very reassuring. But there is this Islamophobia and this otherness that people look to immigrants, with, and for me, really kind of rejecting that hate, really showing that my patriotism does not really depend on what religion I hold. My candidacy is to win, but it's also to make a statement, is that I can serve my community regardless of what background or identity I hold. So there has been very xenophobic pushback in terms of that. It's a scary thing to run for office as a Black hijabi woman. This is a hijab, just because there is a lot of hate, but we cannot sit down and just take it and hide in the shadows just because we're afraid. We really, really need to sacrifice a little bit of personal comfortability for the greater good, and that has really pushed me, throughout my life. And Go ahead.
I don't know you. It's the first time we met, but you clearly are a strong, determined woman, and it is oozing through the camera how strong you are.
Thank you so much.
And I'm just curious, has any of your consultants around you, white consultants probably most likely, say, hey, your hijab, should you take that off? Like, has anyone said, take that off, kind of tone that down until you get elected, then come out? I could see some political consultants saying that. I mean, sadly, has anyone said that to you? Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
No one has. And they have been, I have incredible progressive, advocates and friends and consultants that have really pushed me to not only keep my identity and never really sacrifice any part of it or compromise any part of it, but really have encouraged me to speak my mind. I don't know if you scroll through my Twitter or Facebook, Henry, I say what I want. And I think it's very different than a lot of candidates for Senate. If something bugs me, if something is not going well, I say it out loud. With really, no regard to whatever political capital I might lose, you know? And so that is something that not many people in government really have the privilege of saying is I get to represent my working class values, my working class people unapologetically, and surrounding myself with advisors that have the exact same passion and commitment to progressiveness and unity really helps me in keeping my hijab on, but more importantly, keeping my values. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you win? You can't do doors, right? You can't really do doors
Yeah.
right now. And historically, people, when you want to win race, like Senate's a broader district, but usually doors is key, right? Doing
Yeah.
doors, etc. And you can't really do doors now. So, what's your strategy to win? How do you campaign now?
Yeah, so I think COVID-19 has changed very, very many things in our society, campaigning being, one of them. And so for
Mm-hmm.
me, I was lucky enough to be able to door knock a little bit in January because I was the, I think, second person to declare while Senator Risser was still in office. And so really getting to know a lot of members of my community was great face to face. Nothing beats that. But I also have background in organizing with Next Gen America and very much digital organizing that's geared toward younger demographics and marginalized communities. And so what our campaign is doing is really looking at this moment, keeping everyone safe, while also hearing the voices of Madison is gonna use something called relational organizing, where we get to know people in Madison and really have them, if they support our campaign, if they believe in our values, reach out to their friends and family, and have them join our movement. So very much phone banking, digital organizing, ads, and kind of this new age campaigning are really going to be essential towards pushing us to that win. And we've been doing it for a couple months now. We've had practice, we've had time to prepare and to really hone in our skills. And I think you'll see how that plays out by August 11th.
You sound like a candidate. When you run for office, you have to have that energy, that passion. You clearly
Yeah,
have it.
thank you.
So what are you running on? What are your platforms? Is education? Is it criminal justice? Well, I mean, what are your key issues?
Yeah, so for me, I'm running a people's platform. I think number one was really rooting myself in the conviction that I am there to be, a microphone and a speaker for the people of Madison. So, getting to know my community throughout these 3 years through through the door knocking I did in the beginning, highlighted really working class issues that are essential towards the progression of Madison. Housing reform is really, really big for me because I personally have an experience with that. And I also have, seen how it's given Madisonians such a hard choice between paying the rent and buying groceries at the end of the month. And that has been perpetuated even more so with COVID-19. So looking at how we can really manage and effectively, obliterate our affordable housing crisis are really important to me. Rent has increased 23% in the past 5 years, while the minimum wage has stayed the same. 25% of Madison are extremely rent burdened, which means that they pay 50% of their income or more on housing, which in America, the richest country in the world, that's unacceptable. So looking at our campaigns, looking at residual income models for measuring affordability, the 30% affordability standard that the federal government, mandates and that we use to kind of look at eligibility for many housing programs in the state and the country is outdated. It comes from a 18th century saying that really has no root in modernity, kind of, first of all, inflation and how our economy works now. So looking at how much people spend on transportation, on healthcare, and food, on education, and then looking at what's left for it to be a metric of what rent should be, I think will really bring us into the 21st century and really help Madisonians here that really are just trying to have a better life. So that is really something, number one on my agenda, making sure that we are solving our disparities, in education, making sure that Wisconsin, we walk it back from being the most segregated state in the country, and really combating the environmental crisis in a way that gets us to decarbonize by 2030. So it is a very progressive, very working class rooted platform that we hope will really elevate the voices of Madison's working class for the next 4 years.
So one of the people that you're running against is a Madisonian who's been here for a long time, and she's run for office a lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my guess is that she will claim her experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. I haven't heard her platform.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say? What would you say if you're at the door, someone asks you, what's the difference between you? Why vote for you versus this other person? What would you say?
Well, I think looking at the timeline of this race, I declared in January. I was the second person to declare because, again, I did not wait for permission to heal my community. I have really gone up against an establishment declaring my run for Senator Risser's specific Senate seat. The pushback hasn't always been very, very encouraging, as it is for many working class, Black Americans that declare for the seat. But for me, I think that speaks to where my passion is, and that I am not afraid to go up against systems and really ask for their reform. I did not wait for this race to be easy. And my lived experience as someone who has not, been helped by the system really informs my commitment to bringing every single person in Madison, no matter the color of their skin, their sexuality, gender identification, their class, really to this area of being in a better place, having a better livelihood. And I think that when you look at the experience that I have had in these years that I've been alive, and you put that with the passion that I have for listening to Madisonians, then you get a clear answer of who's going to prioritize the issues of this specific district, who has lived the issues of this specific district, and who will bring this specific district in the next 4 years to a better place. And obviously, people get to vote for who they want, and I'm not entitled to a vote. But I am entitled to having my voice heard, but more importantly, the voices of the people that I represent that have not been listened to the system, that Kelda Roys and Senator Risser have kind of been masters of a broken system for a very long time. And the question is, where are we going in the future, and who's going to lead us there?
Well, where can people find out more information about your campaign?
Yeah, so we have a website, www.nadaforwisconsin.com. We are also on Twitter, on Facebook, on all social media, Instagram. Twitter is very fun, so please join us on there. And our website has so many opportunities for putting in your voice. If you would like something for our team to advocate for, if you'd like to volunteer, to donate, you'll find all that information on there.
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
cool.
And I wish you best of luck in that wild journey. It's a
wild one. Yeah.
It's wild, and the best advice I can tell you is don't listen to a lot of people around you, because I'm serious, because when you run for office, there's so much negativity that you can hear, so much rumor mills and gossip potential. Yeah. It's really key to protect your peace, and so have people around you that you can really, you really can trust and talk to them. But it's especially going against institutions, like you said, it can be tough. So just make sure that you know why you're running, surround yourself with good people, and kind of block out the noise, because it'll wear on you. That's the only best advice.
It does, and since January, there has been so much racism, so much sexism, by people that I have looked up to, people that I have voted for and door knocked for, and it's been discouraging. But the people that I listen to are the people of Madison that have been so incredibly supportive, that don't dilute my experience and the equity I'm looking for to identity politics. And so while there is noise, the voices that matter, the people of Madison, are the ones that I intend to only listen to going forward. But that is advice I need to need to hear often.
Yes, because again, for someone who ran for office, who ran against someone who was an institution, I never. This is the honest truth, and I know I recognize we're saying this live, but I never felt as much racism as I felt from the institution of the party running. I've never felt anything as intense as that, and the stuff that you heard. And as a party guy, you got to take the line. You don't want to say that publicly then, but I can say it now. It was awful for a young black man at that point. So I can just imagine what you're going through. So again, I'm saying, make sure that you kind of have people to filter stuff out, because it can be toxic. Even the people that you think are supposed to be on your side, right, in the party. So I've been there. So just protect your peace.
I see that, and I've been saying it. I call it out when I feel it. That's how I really prioritize my well-being when it comes to racism and institutionalized racism from progressives. But I think my candidacy also, if you looked at the news cycle where my name is involved, is really changing a lot of that expectation, really putting pressure on these people that represent us to hear our voices and to give it the space that it needs. So I think it's gonna be very great going forward for any Black candidate coming up, just because of what you have started and what barriers you've removed in your candidacy, and what I hope to do for other young candidates of color going forward.
Amen. Well, we wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
We will definitely, if you want to bring you back on and learn how things are going. But thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we'll see you next time at Real Talk.